Good evening, everybody. I'm assuming you can hear me and see me. Would somebody like to just put in the chat? Oh, good. Rebecca says hi. Terrific. It's always good to get that reassurance that we're all going along. Thank you very much for joining us. Just wait for a few more people to join on this rather cool evening. I think we might wait till 7:30 at least. So you found where the chat is, you know how to put any questions in, and feel free to ask questions as we're presenting, because there'll be plenty of time to answer your questions at the end of the session. Okay, I might get moving then. Thank you all very much for joining us this evening. My name is Dr. Selena Samuels, and I'm the Chief Learning Officer at Cluey Learning. Just one moment, I want to check that my colleague is with us. Is Rick there? Oh, don't worry, I'll just keep on going. So, again, my name is Dr. Selena Samuels, and I'm the Chief Learning Officer at Cluey Learning. I've been in education for over 25 years as a university lecturer, classroom teacher, head of English, in senior leadership positions, and as an education consultant. As a consultant, I've worked with schools across the world, advising on pedagogy and the integration of technology, helping set up new schools and campuses, and working across all sectors from early years to tertiary. At Cluey, I oversee our team of educators, the training and development of our tutors, and overall ensure quality of learning for all our students.
Hi everyone, my name is Rick Gaudet, and apologies for little technical issues there. I hope you can all hear me and see me now. I'm the head of school partnerships here at Cluey Learning, and I just wanted to introduce myself and what role I play here. So I spent some time as a humanities teacher in the both government and Catholic school systems in New South Wales before I embarked on a career in sales, marketing and operations, most recently in the educational technology sector. My key responsibility at Cluey Learning is to make sure that we offer the best fit-for-purpose learning support for our schools, teachers and students. And so I play a pretty key role alongside Selena and others in the business to make sure that whatever we do and deliver fits for your purposes. So I'm looking forward to hearing from a lot of you, not only tonight, but in the coming weeks, so that we can understand how we can best add value to your students' academic development. Selena?
Okay, thank you, Rick. So to give you some information about us, at Cluey, we've delivered over 300,000 lessons online, with almost 38,000 in June alone. And these are through a combination of one-to-one and small group. And for us, small group is up to 5 students. We've adopted this approach of synchronous engagement between students and tutors because we believe it's the most valuable way to engage students online and the best way to support and complement their classroom learning. Cluey's been approved by the New South Wales Department of Education, as you may well know, to provide its tutoring and learning support services to schools who participate in the small group tuition program. And we've organised this webinar to share with you some information about the New South Wales Government's Tutoring in Schools program and about how Cluey can help your school, even if you're not eligible for government funding. So, what is the COVID intensive tutoring program? The New South Wales Government is committed to ensuring that every student's learning is on track following the COVID disruptions experienced in 2020. And as I speak from lockdown in Sydney, this is clearly not over yet. To support this commitment, more than 2,000 New South Wales Department of Education schools have received funding for small group tutoring in 2021. The schools are primary schools, high schools, central schools, plus schools for specific purposes. The New South Wales Department of Education has identified the schools eligible for the program, the amount they are to receive, and the approximate number of students to be supported as part of the program. These schools were identified and notified in December 2020 when the New South Wales Government announced the program. Now, if you're unsure if your school is one of those eligible, we'll show you how to find out a little later on in the webinar. Now, I should point out that funding was also allocated to Catholic and independent schools as part of the New South Wales Government's COVID recovery package. For more information, independent schools can contact the Association of Independent Schools, and Catholic schools should contact their diocese for more information about how to access this funding. So how does Cluey For Schools work? Well, Cluey supplies and delivers our learning programs online, delivered synchronously by tutors to supplement existing school programs. The programs are designed and developed by our in-house education team, all of whom are experienced teachers, and mapped to the New South Wales curriculum. The programs are all personalised to the needs of our students, target key skills in numeracy and literacy, and are designed on a spiral curriculum to enable consolidation and revision. So each group is made up of between 2 and 5 students, so each tutoring group, allocated by the school and matched to one of our highly qualified tutors, with sessions occurring throughout the school terms in 2021. Each session is around 60 minutes. For the Department of Education program, all our tutors are teachers accredited by NSW. So based on the information we've received from each school, we will allocate the appropriate program for each group to start. English or maths, which level that students are working on, if they're maybe working far below their cohort. We meet the students where they are, but we can always make variations based on the tutor observation or feedback from the school. We believe strongly that the pace of each session should match the needs of the group, which is why it's important that their teachers who know the students best and the school manage and allocate the students to each group. We work closely with the classroom teachers and provide formal written feedback after every session. Each session is recorded and available for teachers and students with privacy settings in place. And after every session, the students are also encouraged to provide feedback via an emoji and a written comment. So we encourage the schools and individual teachers to communicate with us to ensure that the programs and tutoring are providing the best possible support for students. We've found that it doesn't take long after the initial sharing of information from teacher to Cluey for the sessions to find the appropriate rhythm to suit the students. So, what type of schools and kids can benefit from this program? Now, I'm sure you're all familiar with the Grattan Institute report into the impact of COVID on school-based learning. The report identified that when learning from home, students across the board learned about 50% of what they normally would learn in class, with the rate of learning decreasing to as low as 25% for students in disadvantaged schools. This research indicates that while some students were affected more than others, the impact of school disruptions on learning progression is significant. With those in disadvantaged areas and students who are already behind in their learning, the two cohorts most adversely affected and in a position to benefit most from further support. Many of the students in these cohorts will now be working to combat the Matthew effect. When concepts are missed in learning, it can be challenging to develop new skills down the track. So those who fell behind and are falling behind during COVID-19 will find it difficult to catch up. Struggling students can become less motivated and the problems compound. Now, I've been a teacher for a long time, and I think we all know that learning gaps for students in early primary, if they're not addressed, can become learning chasms in high school. So all students can certainly benefit from a targeted tutoring support program. For disadvantaged students in particular, the opportunity to do an intensive program of sessions in English and or maths, up to several per week, will help them to catch up to the level of the rest of their cohort. So the big question, does small group tutoring actually work? Well, the Grattan Institute's report, which synthesised research from around the world, recommends small group tutoring as a key means of assisting students who have been educationally disadvantaged. And this is one of many reports that have been published internationally in the past year or so. 4 recent evaluations of tuition in the UK found both one-to-one and small group tutoring to be highly effective, with small group tutoring having the benefit of being far more cost-effective and efficient to roll out at scale. The key benefits of working in small groups compared to the classroom are the opportunity to pace the learning to fit the students and for tutors to provide more extensive targeted feedback to help improve learning outcomes. Our program includes support for students with specific learning needs who require further assistance when in school in general. So we support students with additional needs such as reading interventions, dyslexia, dyscalculia, ASD, ADHD, with a focus on how best to support these students in the context of a Cluey live learning session. The important thing to remember, of course, is that these tutoring sessions are in addition to the support students are already receiving from their teachers and in the classroom. They're designed to be complementary, and we really see ourselves as working in partnership with classroom teachers. That collaboration supercharges the learning support for individual students who are struggling or behind. So, how does online tutoring work in small groups? This is a common question. All Cluey tutoring is delivered online using Cluey's own video, audio, and collaborative whiteboard learning platform, and includes all the relevant content. And Rick is going to show you a bit of this in a little while. This means that Cluey services are available anywhere, provided the student has access to a computer with a camera, headset, microphone, and stable internet. It's important to note that students in the same group do not need to be in the same location. In fact, they're on their own devices and can be at home. The Cluey platform provides a live, seamless, interactive and collaborative learning platform, which is much more fit for purpose than meeting software like Zoom or Teams. So all of these features mean that the tutor can focus on teaching and supporting students in their learning rather than creating or managing the content for the session. By knowing what's being covered when, we're also able to provide a much more detailed picture for teachers and parents what's actually going on during the learning session. And in addition to this, by using the Cluey platform, students can complete practice questions on their own between sessions, and their work will be automatically visible to the group in the next session for discussion and feedback from the tutor and their peers. So, what's Cluey's experience of doing all of this? Last year, when research was emerging about the impact of school closures on learning and the value of tutoring as a response, we reached out to the New South Wales Department of Education, offering to run a pilot to test the benefits of tutoring. We ran the pilot in Term 4 last year with 6 selected schools, 3 primary and 3 high schools identified as high priority. We ran both one-to-one and small group programs with over 200 students participating in the pilot. And I'm happy to say the pilot was a great success. Feedback from the schools was all very positive, from the ease of enrolling students and communicating with Cluey to the programs themselves. The teachers we worked with were impressed by the high quality of the learning content, reporting that every session was intensive and engaging and no moment was wasted. The schools reported a very high level of student engagement and measurable academic progress, even after only a term of weekly sessions. Now, one benefit was mentioned a couple of times and really stayed with me. A number of the schools employ individual teachers to run small group and one-to-one sessions in school, but said that they frequently have to pull them off tutoring to cover for absent teachers, and the students identified as needing tutoring miss out on the support. The principals of those schools said that the fact that the Cluey programs were conducted by an external organisation rather than having a casual on site was vital for the learning continuity of the students. And that really stayed with me. So thank you, everyone. And now I'm going to hand it over to Rick to allow him to talk to you in a bit more detail.
Thanks, Selena. I'll just give you an indication of the pricing for this, and then I'll show you how to get a lot more information from our website and also the New South Wales Department of Education website. So I'll flick you through a half a dozen slides quickly. And after this, most probably tomorrow morning, we'll send you all a recording of this session, as well as a copy of the slides and some further information and how to get into contact with us should you want to participate in this program. So firstly, what does it cost? Look, our rates are the same, irrespective of when the tutoring occurs, whether it's during school, before school, after school, or even on weekends. And the costs for a group session for years 3 to 10 is $135 per session. That's inclusive of GST. And that's for, as Selena mentioned earlier, up to 60 minutes and up to 5 students in the group. So for the more senior years 11 and 12, again, it's $135 GST inclusive, and that's for a 1-hour session for up to 2 students. So these costs are all paid by the New South Wales Department of Education under this COVID intensive learning support program, and they don't come out of your existing budgets or buckets of funds. They are accessed through applying to the department, and there's a process to follow there, and I'll take you through that in a moment. So that's kind of how much it costs there in a nutshell. There's no increases for more sessions or fewer students or more students. It's the one rate at 135. So I'm just going to share with you now a couple of slides which will just step you through, and I hope I get the sharing part of this right here. So I'm going to share my materials. Right. I've got to find where on this screen, which I've never used Dim yet before, so apologies for this, on how to share slides here. Here we go. And I will select some slides. Hopefully you can all see that. Selena, just say yes, you can see it. Right, so these are just screenshots of some of our websites. So this is our major websites, a landing page for Cluey Learning. And if you have a look at this landing page here, there's some 4 selections in blue across the top there: primary, secondary, senior, or Cluey for Schools. If you click through to Cluey for Schools, you come to this page, which is a page dedicated to everything we've just spoken about and more. There's a whole heap of information here on what we do, how we do it. Some videos here also of some sessions, so you can see, for an example, how they work, how they operate, how the interactive learning platform works, how the tutor engages with the students, and so forth. There's some information here on pricing, and if you then want to have a look and see what this is all about with regards to the Department of Education small group program provider tutoring, there's a banner at the top. You can see there, and you click onto Learn More, and that will take you through to this page. And this page is dedicated for the Department of Education's small group tutoring program. About 1/3 of the way down this page, you will see a banner, and on that banner, it'll say, it'll take you through a click through directly to the department's website, which will look something like this, and you will use your normal Department of Education log on to get into the site and get further information. Everything you need is on this COVID Intensive Learning Support Program site with the department. Once you've done that, if you are interested and you'd like to get a quote from us, you'll be directed to a quotation page, which looks a little like this. So this is from the Department of Education. It's a simple quotation form. You fill in your school details, personal details, how to get access to you, some information on the grades you're interested in, the learning focus, whether it's literacy, numeracy, or for the higher grades, it might be chemistry for senior science, how many sessions you want per week, and so forth. And you send that through, and once that gets approved by the department, we're notified. And then post that, we send you a service agreement, which again is something that has been developed by the department. And that agreement is like a 3-way contract between the school, the department, and ourselves. And then we get the program up and running. Here is some links here for further information. So if you're from an independent school and you can't get access to the government website I just showed you, you can go to the Australian Independent Schools Association website, and there's a click through there. Again, I'll send you all this material afterwards. And for the Catholic schools, systemic schools, I should say, there's an email here to a guy called Andrew Mellis at Catholic Schools New South Wales. Now, this isn't very clear. You'll probably need to get hold of those guys over there. They're just stepping through and trying to work out exactly how to do all this. But there are funds. I know there's at least $18 million made available for the Catholic schools to access these programs. So I'll stop sharing now.
To answer any questions you may have after that. There's a lot of information we've just thrown at you in rapid time. I didn't want to use up too much of anybody's time, so I spoke in my best, getting lots of stuff across to a classroom of kids' voice. Please, if you have any questions, do put them in the chat. Equally, if there are other questions that occur to you over the course of the evening, you can, of course, reach out to us through the Cluey website if there's any questions you have. Does anybody have anything that they would like us to address, or anything they'd like us to cover again? Jenny, for students who struggle with reading, what approach do you use? We do use some phonics programming. We generally work with kids who are already readers. So these programs are for students, the group programs offered by the department for students from year 3 to year 10, to year 12 actually. So generally we will be assuming that the students can read. So it's not the ones in 1 to 2, although we do have 1-to-1 programs for students in year 2, which focus on a phonics approach to reading. Good questions, Jenny and Rebecca. Thank you. Other questions? We do feel that for the very little ones, online is not necessarily, that is the very little ones in kindergarten, is not necessarily the best approach to working with them. Do you run sessions for teaching technology? No, we don't. We're really focusing, particularly for this program, on literacy, numeracy, English and maths. We use technology though. Any other questions? What's interesting is one thing we've found with working with schools, and I think it's worth calling this out, is that many of the kids, particularly we found this in the pilot, many of the kids that we were working with were working below their cohort. Not all of them, however. We had some groups of kids who were working a long way ahead of their cohort. So we were working with both sides of the spectrum. We assume that for the intensive program, we're really looking at kids who do need quite a lot of support, and we can work with them even if they're working, several years below their cohort, as long as it's hard to work with year 3 working many years below their cohort. Another question from Seema. Have you got something in science from year 7 to 10 prac and theory inclusive? We don't, sadly. We have got a year 10 program that we offer for science, which is a 1-to-1 program, which you can access, but not as part of the Department of Education program. Lila, currently due to Sydney lockdown, many of our parents are not enjoying the online platform and want face-to-face teaching for the child. Well, it depends on what the online platform is. Our platform is designed to be, as I said, fully inclusive audio, video, and the interactive whiteboard, so that it's very interactive and students can see what each other is doing and what the tutor is doing. It may be different from the platforms that you're using. We are an online service. I think that we also know, certainly in Sydney, that they're discouraging that face-to or that in-person interaction at the moment. Differentiation in the same lesson? Well, that's a very good question. We ask the schools to group the students based on being, having similar learning needs. And then, of course, we differentiate within the session. We have different levels of difficulty. We assume that if teachers have allocated those groups, they will be working at a similar pace. That is the most effective way, so that the tutor and the rest of the group can go at the pace that suits them. But we can differentiate within the session. But I'd encourage schools to make choices of students that are going to work best together, because this is really one of the great opportunities of small group tutoring. These are great questions, by the way, people. Rick, is there anything that you've had a few discussions with schools? Are there things that are coming up routinely in your conversation with schools?
Very, very, very similar questions. I think also what's going to be interesting is the logistics of this. How do we organise this with the school and the classroom? Where do we run the sessions? And look, to be fair, it'll be easier in some schools than others because there's more room. There might be a larger library or a gymnasium, or there could be times where empty rooms in the school. So there's some, not concerns, but questions about how we're going to organise all that. So there's some logistics questions about it.
When we did the pilot, we learned a lot about how much room we needed, how best to move the students around. So we've actually learned quite a lot from that process. So the question from Rebecca, how do schools organise the sessions? Where are the students gathered? The students are on their own device. Each one has his or her own device. They can be in the same space as long as it's large enough and they're wearing good headphones. They can actually be in different parts of the school. They can each be at home as well. And I know that it's logistically a little complex for schools at the moment, particularly with schools whose students are learning remotely. But actually, we can accommodate that very, very easily. That's something that's our bread and butter. We can work with that as long as the students have the devices. So it is. We've learned a lot, and we will work and advise schools as to the sort of space they need. And it's probably a good idea to stagger the sessions if you can. That is to say, not having every single year group doing Cluey at the same time, because that's going to put a bit of stress on your bandwidth. But we can really help you to organise that. Who assesses student progress? No, we feel, Geraldine, that it should be the school. We can tell you what we believe, and we will certainly give you feedback. The students will get feedback after every session, but we really recommend that schools can do some pre and post assessment. We need you to feel comfortable that we're providing the support that you think is necessary for the students. We will share with you all our observations, so we can certainly come to a combined view about how individual students are progressing. Seema, is the tutoring focused on students' current learning in class? Yes. So if students are doing algebra in class, we will be, the Year 7 program, for instance, will be using algebra. And as I said, we'll be returning to those algebraic concepts. So our programs are all designed based on the curriculum and will provide the same sort of support that you would be providing in class. And we're actually, particularly our maths and primary and actually secondary English heads of department are all New South Wales in experience, as well as having other experience. They certainly have New South Wales experience. Should the teachers supervise students during the lesson? You don't need to be very actively involved. You do need to have visibility of the students, of course, for duty of care reasons, but you don't need to be involved. The tutor will be running that session and will be providing the educational support. There will be a teacher, of course, but it's a good idea for you perhaps to see the kids, but you will not need to do very much. And we found very much working with schools that after the first sometimes at the beginning, it's a little bit getting everybody on and making sure that they're working. At the first session, there may be quite a lot of involvement, but that involvement dissipates over time, and you can actually get on with your own work, keeping an eye on the kids. But certainly the idea is to free up teachers so that you can get on with all the 1,000 things that you have to do. Is there anything else that we can help you with? As Rick said, that we will be supplying you with a lot of this information tomorrow. And if you have any other questions, we'll be delighted to answer them.
And Selena, before we let all these good folks go, I'd like to say to everybody that when you receive an email from me tomorrow with further information, there'll be an offer there for any of you that have registered for this webinar. If you want to try this out free of charge, we will provide you with a trial for a couple of weeks for a couple of your groups, because I often find that a proof of concept is a good way to learn without the risk of having to dip into funds that may be allocated to your school. So we're more than happy to provide a free trial for anybody who's registered here today and wants to try this out. So think about that. There'll be access to that through myself. Once you get the email, if you're interested, please respond to me and we'll organise it for you.
Well, thank you. If there are no further questions, we'll let you go and.
Oh, there's one. One's just here to.
No,
thank you.
Nice comments. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for taking time to join us. We really want to help you as much as we can. So let us know, and we will do what we can. Have a lovely evening. I'm going to go and have my dinner now, Rick.
Enjoy. Thanks, everybody, and I hope to hear from you in the coming days.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes. Bye-bye.